A pinch of story, a spoon of exaggeration, and a whole lot of fun.
Hey guys, it's Jeff Brown over at the house, and want to tell you a little story today. I got a story today about the time my truck got stolen, and I actually got my truck stolen twice, different trucks at different times, but this was the second time it got stolen, and it's probably about 15 years ago now. But I was staying at this hotel, the Marriott, over by the Bay Area for this big conference I had at work. And we were there like 3 days, and I had to pay some ridiculous amount for parking, like $18 a day. Even though I was staying at the hotel, they made me pay this parking amount because it was supposedly the secure parking lot. When I parked there, it was all, you had to take a ticket. There was a booth and everything, and there was fencing all around it. So I took the ticket, put it on my dash, go into the hotel, do the conference. When I'm done, I'm walking back out to my truck. I hadn't gone anywhere the whole time we were there. There was restaurants inside the hotel, everything. So I go walking back out there with my suitcase, and by the time I get to where my truck was parked, I'm looking around and I don't see my truck, And I'm looking around, I'm almost sure it was parked here, and then I walk up to this one spot and I see broken glass on the ground, right where I thought my truck should be. So I'm like, you're kind of in disbelief. If you've ever had your car or truck stolen, you're like, I can't believe this is happening, So there's nobody in this booth at the time. And I go back over and to the hotel, and I start raising a hard time with them. I'm telling the person at the desk, they go, let me call the manager, this, that, and the other. And I'm really upset, because I paid good money for this supposedly secure parking lot. Now my truck's stolen, right? And the thing was, there's only one way to get out of there. So I know whoever broke into my truck and stole it drove right out through the gate and took the thing that I had to leave on the dash and gave it to them and drove away in my, I don't know what, a $50,000 truck. So I'm upset. So I'm kind of yelling, and they're trying to calm me down, and they finally call the police, and I make this big police report. Well, and the police say, stolen cars usually have a way of turning up, it'll probably be a little while, and we'll find it, and then we'll call you. So no police call me. Several days go by, and maybe a weekend goes by, and out of the blue, I get this call from somebody, and he says, this is John over at so-and-so towing. Is this Jeff Brown? And I said, yeah, it's Jeff Brown. And they said, you have a blah, blah, blah truck, a black Dodge, and I said, yeah, I do. It got stolen. He's like, yeah, that's what I'm calling you about. I go, I'm over here in an alley and I'm towing this truck because it's parked illegally. And I look inside the window and I can see that the dash is kind of ripped up and the steering column's all broken open, which is pretty typical when a car gets stolen. So I called this into my dispatcher, and they had information on you on whatever police report you put in, which is how I'm calling you now. And I said, okay, great. I'm like thinking I'm going to get my truck back, And so the guy says, yeah, he goes, well, we're going to tow it over to the tow yard, and then it'll be there. And when you come pick it up, you'll just have to pay the or the storage fees. And then, so as I'm talking to this guy, he all of a sudden, you hear that somebody else yell, hey, what are you doing with my truck? And this guy's on the phone with me. He says, oh, this is your truck, I hear him say. And the guy says, yeah, that's my truck. What are you doing? And the guy says, well, I'm trying to tow your truck because it's not supposed to be parked here. This is illegal parking. And the guy says, oh, you can't tow my truck. You got to get it to me. So the guy says to him, well, hold on a minute. Let me go in here and I'll call my dispatcher and see what we need to do. So the guy says, okay. So he hops in his cab, I guess. I can't see what's going on. I'm just hearing this all happen. And he hops in his cab and shuts the door. And then he's back on the phone with me. And he's like, hey, I think I got the guy here that stole the truck. He goes, I'm calling my dispatcher right now. So then I hear him get on the radio, and he's talking to his dispatcher, and he's saying real quiet, I think this guy stole the truck. You got to call the police. And the dispatcher's saying, yeah, we got the cops on. We're calling the police right now, So anyway, he tells me, well, let me go out there and distract him a little bit, and while the cops are on the way, So he goes back out there and he starts talking to the guy for a minute or two, and I can hear him talking back and forth. Not great, but I can hear him kind of going back and forth about things. And sorry, my stupid computer monitor just turned off. But I can hear him going back and forth on things. And then he's telling him, that the dispatcher said that if he'd give him $50, he'd go ahead and let the truck go off the tow truck or whatever, and he'd give him his truck back. So the guy says, well, can you, take an ATM card? And he goes, sure, I could take the ATM card. I'll have to run it. So anyway, next thing you know, he's back in the truck with me, and he goes, yeah. He goes, the guy gave me his ATM card. I got his name on it and everything. And he goes, so I'm just acting like I'm running it right now while I'm talking to you. And he's also talking to his dispatcher, and his dispatcher, I guess, is on the phone with the police because he's saying the cops are almost there. They think they're really close. And so he goes, he tells me, I got to stall him some more. And so he steps back out of the truck and he tells the guy, that the card didn't go through. And, are you sure this card's good? And the guy says, yeah, that card's good. I know it's good, So he goes, well, it didn't go through. He goes, let me try it one more time. He goes, hold on just a second. So he hops back in the truck and he's telling me, he goes, I'm just acting like I'm running this. He goes, I'm not really running. I'm just waiting for the cop. He goes, wait. I see the cops at the end of the alley, and he's telling me he sees the cops and he goes, oh, they just went past. And so he hops on the radio with his dispatcher and he's like, tell the cops they just went past the alley. We're down here in this last alley, or something. And so this guy starts giving me a blow by blow of what's going on. He goes, oh, I see the cops are backing up, And he goes, I don't think this guy sees him though. And he goes, they're coming down the alley. The cops are driving down the alley. And then he goes, oh, I think the guy sees him. He goes, wait a minute. He's starting to back up. He goes, he's starting to run. He's running. And he goes, oh, the cops are coming down. One of them's jumping out of the car. He's chasing after him. He goes, he just tackled him, And he's telling me this blow by blow of how this guy's getting tackled by the cops. And he goes, he's got him. He's trying to get away, but they got him. They're holding him down. He goes, oh, they're putting handcuffs on him, And so they cuff him right there in front of the guy. And he goes, I can't believe this. He goes, this is incredible. I've never dealt with anything like this in my whole time being a tow truck driver, And I'm on the phone losing my mind. I'm like, what is happening? I can't believe this is even going on while I'm on the phone with this guy. They're busting the guy that stole my truck to begin with. So anyway, a little bit of time goes by and the guy's still saying what an amazing thing this is. And he can't believe this. And it's just so crazy. And then you hear the cops come over, I guess, and they start talking to the guy. And he goes, well, the cop's like, well, we got him, and he's, and the tow truck driver's telling him he's got his ATM card, and, and he shows him I guess the way the steering column's all broken open, and he's kind of relaying the story back to the cop, and the cops are like, okay, this, that, or the other. So it ends up, they arrest the guy, they take him to jail. The guy in the tow truck tells me, or the tow truck driver, John, tells me that he's going to still tow the truck back over to the yard. And he gives me the number to the place and he goes, just call them. And he goes, but come and get it quick because we charge like X number of dollars a day for it to sit there. So, come over as soon as you can and and get your truck, So I end up, anyway, I ended up going back over and getting my truck out and getting the truck out of the tow yard. And the thing was all kind of beat up. Like I said, the dash was tore up. I had to start it with a screwdriver to drive it back home when I got it. And the guy had smoked a bunch in it. In fact, when I got inside there's all this rap music stored inside of inside of the center console, and there was about 5 packs of cigarettes in there, and it smelled inside there like he smoked another 5 packs while he had the truck. And the back wheels, it was this Dodge truck with a big Hemi in it, so the thing, you could spin the tires, and apparently he did, because he spinned off about half of the tires on the back of there. But otherwise the truck wasn't harmed, and the insurance company ended up making it right and doing a bunch of cleaning and getting the smoke out of there, and it ended up all being good. I got my truck back. But that's the story of the wildest. I bet you never heard anything like that before on getting a truck back. That was about the craziest thing that happened to me in a long time. So anyway, there's the story of the time my truck got stolen. So if that's not enough for you, I don't know. But I appreciate you listening to me. I appreciate, as always, you taking the time to listen to my story. And I want to say God bless you. Have a wonderful day. And I'll be talking to you soon.
That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and hey, tell a friend.